In this exercise, we're going to take a group of colors that are associated with a harmony rule here inside the color guide panel, and we're going to save them off as a color group inside the swatches panel. And then we'll turn around and take a custom color group from the swatches panel and assign it as a harmony rule inside the color guide panel. So there's this kind of reciprocal arrangement between harmony rules and color groups inside Illustrator. I've saved my changes as colorfulbackgrounds.ai. And what we're going to do here is start things off. I've got my color guide panel set to the Tetrad 2 rule right there. And so you want to go ahead and choose a different rule just to make sure that you've got all of the colors selected. And it's based off of my blue t-shirt color, so that's great. And now I'm going to drop down here to this little folder icon, and I'm going to click on it in order to save the group out inside the swatches panel. Then I'll move over to the swatches panel, and there's my new color group. That's awesome. Now, if you double click on a color group, you might think that would bring up a dialog box that would ask you to name the group. Well, because this originally started off as a harmony rule, you're going to bring up the big edit color dialog box. I'm not quite ready to show you that one yet. So here's how we're going to name this new group. Click on the group in order to select it. Then go up to the flyout menu and choose color group options. And that'll bring up a little dialog box that's not hard to deal with, just a name option, nothing more. And we'll go ahead and call this guy Tetrad Colors and then click OK in order to accept that new color group. Here's another way to create a color group from the colors inside of the illustration. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out and marquee all of these objects back here in the background. Or I could have just clicked on this black wedge in the upper right-hand corner of the backdrop layer here inside the layers panel. Anyway, that goes ahead and selects everybody. There should be 8 different colors there. However, notice if I drop down to this little new color group icon and click on it, and I say that I want to lift the colors from the selected artwork, that's exactly right. I could convert the process colors to global if I wanted to, if I want global colors that are going to update the objects that are assigned to those color swatches on the fly. I'm not really interested in doing that at this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and name this group, and I'm going to call it Vibrant Floral because that's what it reminds me of. We have these bright oranges and reds and yellows as well as these deep greens, and then I'll go ahead and click OK. And sure enough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I do get 8 colors this time around. That's awesome. However, one of the colors says C, M, and Y 0, K 100%, and 1, meaning that it's a duplicate of a color that we already have. And that's because this guy right there is just filled with standard black. So let's vary that a little bit. I'll go ahead and switch over to the color panel and I'll introduce a little bit of cyan, let's say maybe even more magenta, just a little bit more yellow, and I'll take the black value down to something like 85%. Just so that we have a slightly different color going on. You can see it's a kind of darkish brown now. I'll go ahead and click on that object to make it active, switch over to the swatches panel. Let's go ahead and add that swatch by clicking on the new swatch icon. Its name is just fine this way. It doesn't need to be global. This is all okay. Click OK. And then I will drag this guy into the color group like so. So I'm customizing the color group a little bit. Then I'm going to click off of my object so I don't end up recoloring them. And I'm going to grab this final color swatch, which is a duplicate anyway, and I'm going to throw it in the trash. All right, now this gets terribly interesting in my opinion. Go ahead and zoom in here. And of course, you've got all these color groups, and they'll be saved along with your illustration. That's great. You know what? Let's open yet another color group from the Swatch Libraries menu. I'm going to go ahead and click on that little icon down here in the lower left-hand corner of the swatches panel, and I'm going to choose, let's say, where's nature? Right there. And then I'm going to choose flowers because that gives us a wide variety of color choices. And I'm going to grab this guy, Birds of Paradise, and all you need to do is just go ahead and drag it into the swatches panel. That's one way to move a color group in there. Another way is to just click on a color group. If you just click on a folder, that adds it to the current swatches panel as well. And then all of these groups will be saved along with the current illustration. I'm going to close out of that panel. And now let's see what we've got here. If I click on Vibrant Floral, which is the one that I created from the existing colors inside the illustration, and I switch back to Color Guide, notice that becomes my harmony rule. I've got a total of 8 colors now that are associated with this new harmony rule. Now, it's based on the wrong color, which is fine. All I need to do is click on the t-shirt again, and then click on that blue, and now we have a totally new group of colors that's associated with this base color. And that means that I could grab my background rectangle, for example, and I could fill it with brown if I want to. And then I could grab one of these other shapes. And right now I'm working with vivid through muted. If that's not what I want, why don't we try warm cool this time around and see if we end up coming up with something a little more interesting here. Although all these colors are pretty similar to each other, but I'll try, well, blue's not what I'm going to want. None of these are really going to work. This is a bad color scheme for me, frankly. Let's go ahead and switch to something else. Like, for example, we haven't seen pentagram yet. I'm going to go ahead and click on that one to make it active. And I'll grab this shade of orange right there. I think that looks nice. And then I'll click on the leaves and I'll make that, what the heck, let's make it green or even purple. Actually might work out pretty nicely. Maybe a dimmer purple. If I go ahead and switch here to vivid muted once again, and I try out a slightly more muted purple, that might work out. Obviously, I'm just freeforming here. If I go to tints and shades and try out a darker shade of the purple, that might work out nicely too. And I could try out a different blend mode, and we'll be seeing blend modes in a lot more detail when we take a look at transparency in a future chapter. But I could try out something like the screen mode in order to brighten up those purples like that against their background to create a little bit of an interaction. Let's try something else though. Let's try one of the other color groups and see if they might provide us with a more fortuitous harmony rule here. I'll switch over to swatches and I'll grab Birds of Paradise. I'll just go ahead and click on it. Then switch back to the color guide panel. There it is. So now we've got the Bird of Paradise mix. And I'll click on the t-shirt to make it active. I'll click on that color swatch in order to build up the colors from that t-shirt. And then I could click on this background rectangle and let's go ahead and fill it with a deep purple. Actually, that looks very nice, I think. And then I might try something like that light green right there, except you know what? Why don't we try something like vivid to muted, and then we can go with a very vibrant green like that one. And I'll grab that sort of greenish leaf right there, and let's switch it out with the most vivid version of that orange. And we come up with these two color schemes. You know, for better or for worse, this is the effect I've ended up achieving. And that is exactly the kind of thing you can do by, once again, saving your harmony rules from the color guide panel as color groups inside the swatches panel, and then turning around, creating your own custom color groups inside swatches, and then applying those as harmony rules inside color guide.